we have had so much to discuss here. There is so much to break down around this. And I know they touched on a hypothetical trade for Kevin Durant, what that would command after seeing something like this. But just initially, my reaction when I saw Woj report this Rudy Gobert news was wholly expletive.
Yeah.
What was yours?
All right, so first, right off the bat, it was immediately you picture Rudy Gobert and Karl Anthony Towns on the floor together. And I say to myself, okay, clearly Minnesota wanted to get better at protecting the rim. They just did. They added maybe the best in the league at doing that. But the league in general is trying to get better at defending the three-point line and being more versatile defensively. You've gone the opposite way now by pairing these guys up in terms of that. You've gotten a little bit slower defensively on the perimeter. Pick and pops are going to be harder to guard. Pick and rolls, transition threes are going to be hard to guard. Now, offensively, this makes Karl Anthony Towns more comfortable. Okay, that's fine, but he also spends a lot of time in the paint, which is where Rudy Gobert is pretty much every single possession. It's pick, dive, pick, dive, pick, dive, pick, dive. Karl Anthony Towns is not just going to be a spotted three-point shooter. He's also very good on the block. So even offensively, I'm trying to picture the pairings. But listen, so I'm right now thinking, as far as Minnesota's concerned, I have to see what this looks like before I can make a determination. I can't automatically today sit here and say, oh, well, they're now climbing rungs in the Western Conference. Like they're more of a contender. I need to see what that's going to look like. And then from Utah's perspective, now it looks to me like I'd be shocked if Donovan Mitchell does not insist on getting out of Utah, and that now becomes very interesting with some of the teams Wendy mentioned that might want to get him.
So I look at it differently. When I look at the Timberwolves getting Rudy Gobert, I think they are one round better than they were last year, and that's ultimately the goal. And the reason why I think this is when you look at the league, you look at what the Lakers did, right? LeBron James, they had Anthony Davis. They were also playing Dwight Howard. They were playing JaVale McGee. They were playing big. They didn't shoot the ball particularly well from three, but they were big. Now, I'm not saying that Rudy Gobert and Karl Anthony Towns are the same, but even if you look at the Milwaukee Bucks, when, again, great defensive player, when you talk about Lopez and when you talk about Giannis. So there's been teams that have been successful going with that big. I'll even go to the Cleveland Cavaliers last year and minus that towards the end. But they were playing Lauri Markkanen at the 7. They were playing Evan Mobley, and they were playing Jared Allen. So I think if you start to look around the team, we're seeing a shift to like, hey, can we pair some big guys up and just be defensive monsters? Now, that does open you up to threes, but not every team can shoot threes the same way the Warriors and probably about 2 or 3 other teams.
And it works with the Cavaliers, but when I think about, when Anthony Davis and DeMarcus Cousins were kind of supposed to be the twin towers on the Pelicans, that didn't work out.
That was an Achilles. That was an Achilles.
Also, Milwaukee, I mean, Giannis, okay, yeah, they're both 7 feet tall. Giannis guards
everyone.
That's a little like...
Agree. But I'm just saying we're seeing more size being on the league. Now you need that versatility. Yes.
Correct. Yes.
Well, I thought of a lot of things.
Oh, here we go.
Because he started thinking yesterday.
No, I just started recapping and wish we would have brought up the receipts. I thought about when I set up here probably in February, and I was trying to tell Shanae, and I was also telling you that Rudy and Donovan Mitchell didn't get along and they didn't like each other. The writing was all over the wall, and this is what happened. Okay, they got Rudy up out of there. That's the first thing. Then the second thing I thought of is Patrick Beverley in Utah. Patrick Beverley in Utah. Let that sink in for a second. And then I thought about how is this going to work with Rudy and Karl Anthony Towns. Well, they just invested a lot of money in Karl Anthony Towns, and I think this actually worked in his benefit. Now he's able to be the best version of himself and them not trying to make him into a person that he's not. Yeah. Although we all may want him to play the 5 like we do with Anthony Davis. The results tell us they don't want to play the 5. Karl Anthony Towns averaged, 6.5, 7 3-pointers last year? Like, that is extremely high for a big man. So, although he's 7 foot, doesn't make him a big. Like, he loves to playing around out on the perimeter. And when I watch him switch 1 through 5, he's not bad at moving those puppies. I actually love this addition. I actually think that they're trying to do it their way, and they're trying to go back to the traditional 2 big, and I think it's okay, because eventually it's going to move back in that direction. We have seen it time and time again.
I am in disbelief at the amount of draft picks the Minnesota Timberwolves traded for Rudy Gobert. Disbelief.
He's a Hall of Famer.
He is a Hall of Famer. He's 30. He has 4 years left on a gigantic contract. And we have seen in the playoffs, his defense has not been the issue. It's that he can't do anything on offense when teams go small against you. I think in the regular season, this is going to work really well. RJ just said maybe they got 1 round better. I actually think that's fine. I think offensively they'll figure it out. Defensively, they have realized with Karl Towns at the 5, they're not going to be good enough defensively. Rudy Gobert is a top 10 defense unto himself.
Yep.
By himself, he is a top 10 defense. They're going to win a lot of games in the regular season with Ant, Cat, Rudy. I just think the price they paid. Look, you get one shot at this if you're Minnesota. You get
It's everything you ever wanted.
One shot to trade picks or use cap space. That's out the window now to get a third guy next to Edwards and Towns.
Yeah.
I am in shock that they decided this was going to be their shot. 5 picks and a swap for Gobert. And you can tell me they kept Jaden McDaniels. That's great. I hope you keep Jaden McDaniels if you trade 5 picks and a swap. They're going to be better. I'm just not sure it's better enough to justify the outlay. And one last thing, Wendy mentioned the Nets-Celtics trade. The one difference here is, and the Wolves have this going for them. Cat and Ant are so young that they're insulated from that disaster downside that the Nets had. But I just think the draft outlay is I'm literally in disbelief.
So let's just be clear, though. We're saying one round better. You're saying
one round.
You're saying
second round.
top 4 in
Look
the
at the West, man.
And you're saying top 4 in the West.
They took the Grizzlies.
Because one round better, second round, that puts you in the final 4 in the conference. So you're saying top 4 team in the Western Conference.
Well, we're talking a whole lot about.
That's what we're saying. If you say another round.
Yeah, that means they get out. I think they get to the second round. I think they get to the second round. That's what I see.
We're talking
you're
a whole
right.
lot
You guys
about
might be
picks.
right. I need to see it.
Yeah,
I just need to see what that looks
It's
like.
going to be tough.
But the picks are what's leaving you gobsmacked.
Wow.
And
At this point, the only team that has enough picks to trade for Kevin Durant is Oklahoma City.
I look at myself as a savior.
Durant looking for the dagger.
But I know what I can do.
You know who I am. Y'all know who I am. I'm Kevin Durant.
I just want to keep going up. You should have hated a little more. 'Cause really it ain't good enough.
Attention all NBA general managers, you no longer have to trade for KD on NBA 2K. You can do this in real life. Of course, it's going to cost somebody. This is a future Hall of Famer we're talking about. It's Kevin Durant. You know who he is. Plus, you get him without an expiring contract. Now it's only a matter of time where this guy lands. All right, so let's bring in the man who doesn't sleep because he has 2 phones, always tracking the latest in the NBA. Senior NBA insider Adrian Wojnarowski. Woj, besides the one deleted tweet that Kevin Durant posted on Twitter, he's not talking much, but we know that the Nets are shopping. What's the latest with him?
You know, Max, I think that the Nets are trying to create an outline for the rest of the league about the kind of package they would want back in a Kevin Durant trade. And, you know, I think the Rudy Gobert trade to Minnesota, you know, started to frame that, you know, essentially 5 first-round picks for Gobert. You know, I think for Brooklyn, that level of picks, pick swaps, teams could do 4, and then an all-star level player. Those deals are difficult to put together. Teams who would like to be really aggressive with Brooklyn because they know Kevin Durant has great interest in playing for them. Miami, Phoenix, they don't really have the ability to do one-on-one deals with Brooklyn. They need to bring more teams into it. And so I think right now the market is still taking shape. And I think it's incumbent on, I think, some of the other teams to be creative and start bringing to Brooklyn ideas, going out and seeing if they can get players, picks that would put the kind of package together it would take to get Kevin Durant. You know, Brooklyn's got time on its side. We've got a lot of time left in the offseason, and they've got a player in Kevin Durant who has 4 years left on his contract. They don't have to rush into a deal.
All right, so whatever happens with KD, it's going to be the type of trade that we are not accustomed to seeing. Yeah. So we're going to talk about his teammate next, Kyrie Irving. A lot of noise has been made about him. What's his future looking like?
Yeah, similar to Durant, you know, I think a very slow-moving market right now. I think certainly, unlike Kevin Durant, you know, I think there's a limited number of teams where it might make sense. I do think there's going to be teams who would like to do deals for him. It's different than the sign and trade he tried to get. That's where teams would have had to have signed him for multiple years. He's essentially on an expiring contract. And I think teams who just need to improve their talent and can take some risk with Kyrie Irving. The Lakers have yet, I'm told, to be aggressive in trying to put a deal together to get him from Brooklyn. That may come, that may evolve with time. But so far right now, there's no traction really on deals with either Irving or Kevin Durant. They'll develop over time. But listen, both of these processes could play out, and they don't have to trade either. They're both under contract. They could bring them back to season. I don't think that's the ideal scenario for Brooklyn. The biggest haul of assets they can. But again, there's a lot of time left in this offseason and a lot more talks that are coming.
You know, with all these accolades that these two players have, the one thing that they haven't done, come on SportsCenter. Good thing we got Woj. Thank you, brother.